friends and associates. Welcome to Wealth Builders in Denver, Colorado. Scripture says in Deuteronomy 8:18, "Remember the Lord, your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." As men and women of God, we all want to succeed in our sphere of influence. We all want to make a difference in the kingdom of God. We all want to leave a lasting legacy for generations. Are you ready to be challenged? Do you thrive on inspiration? We all need a healthy dose of encouragement. You'll also receive expert instruction on proven and practical strategies and documented best practices. That's what Wealth Builders is all about. It's time to get off the sidelines and get in the game.
Hey, Billy Eppenhart here. We appreciate you joining us on Wealth Builders Live on Saturday morning. And today we're excited to be talking about Tricord Global and what we are doing overseas. We like to call it making sense of making money for making a difference. And so today, honey, we're going to talk about the making the difference part.
Amen. And this is really our heart. So we may be talking a lot about it, but we're going to be sharing our heart and the mandate that we feel like God gave us to do.
And many people all over the world literally really want to know, how we do this and how does this work. And so today we're going to talk. We have today David Briggs with us, who's our Vice President of Tricord Global and really our Chief Operating Officer of Tricord Global. And so David, welcome. We're glad you're here today.
Great to be here.
And we also have Karen Conrad, of course, our Vice President of Wealth Builders. And she, by the way, David is in Denver and Karen is in Dallas today. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Good morning. Glad to be here.
And so I think that's all we have today for our panelists. And of course, you and I are here.
Yep, we're here
To talk about Tricord Global. And so this morning, just to let you know, and Karen will be sharing some of these particulars and details, and so will Miss Becky, of what we have coming up in the next several weeks. But we're excited, and I just want to tell all of you that are watching, really from all over the world, how much we appreciate you joining us here. And we've been doing these at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, but today we've got some exciting things to talk about.
We do. I have just a few quick announcements, and I'll run through those real quick. If you'd like to have more about our events and access to our blogs and much more, you can go to wealthbuilders.org. Correct. I'm looking down here because it changes. Anyway, you can go to that and you can find more information on that. We have a lot of blogs and vlogs on there that people can access, right?
Yeah, they told me last week, I don't remember, but it's something like 1,000 free blogs and all kinds of free vlogs and all kinds of info and information you can get to learn free. You just go on and go in and look at it.
Amen. And if you subscribe today on that Wealth Builders website, we're going to be giving away top 10 secrets of real estate investors.
Wow.
I know you might need to look at that yourself. Did you teach that?
Yeah, I think I teach that.
Well, you might need to look at it again.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you'd like to have that, go on our Wealth Builders site and subscribe to that, and we will send that to you. Also, if this is exciting, we have our real estate workshop coming up next weekend.
All right.
We are so excited.
June the 12th, 13th, and 14th.
It is. And if it's already full, but we are still offering our live streaming for $3.99. And that is going to be, and what is exciting about that today, we're going to be giving away your real estate workbook.
Oh, I think
so
we might have one of those.
I know we might. But
somewhere.
Anyway, we're going to be giving that away. And if you get that and you subscribe and do the live streaming, you are going to have one up on a whole lot of people. There's a whole lot of information in that workbook that's going to clarify a lot of things that are going to be talking really fast and going by. And you can make notes in your workbook. So that'll be great. Go on, subscribe. And if you're already have subscribed, you'll be in the drawing for that also. So anyway, that's a great thing to have. And we want to say congratulations to Ryan. He won the Change Mastery book. Ryan, you need to read that and let us know what you think, because I think it's going to be very helpful for anybody during this time that we're going through. We're just going from one thing to the other.
Yep.
We went from the COVID now to the riots, and now we're going to go, I don't know, whatever's next. So anyway, that Change book will help you go through all of that. Also, if you'd like to interact, we love the question. Can I say that we really do love the questions? If you have a question, please go to the chat or go to the website or wherever you're at and send those in, because that helps us a lot. And we're doing some things new now with our Wealth Builder University, and that will help us when we come to teaching on what topics to actually focus in on the most.
Yeah, and one of the things the office has been working on, and under Karen's direction, has been creating the frequently asked questions. I think we're actually going to be posting many of those on the website. Is that right, Karen?
Yes, that's correct. And those FAQs, we call them, come from the questions that our viewers and partners are asking. And so we'll have those categorized, and it's going to be a lot of great information.
Really? Because if you're thinking it and have a question, I'm sure there are a lot of people thinking and wanting to know the same thing.
Yeah. So the website is really interactive.
It really is.
You get a lot of information.
A lot of information, and it's free. We like that word, free. So also, we'd like to say thank you to those that have made donations. And if you'd like to do that, you can text. I believe they'll have a screen up for that number for you, 855-444-8056. Or you can go to the website and find the donate button, and it will take you. It's very easy, interactive. It'll take you right through that. So anyway, thank you so much for those of you that have donated. It's helped us a lot with being able to reach more people.
Yes, so thank you for all of those that have given, donated, as well as partnered with Wealth Builders. We appreciate that so much. Well, today we're going to talk about Tricord Global and investing, and really this is the closest passion I have to my heart is what we do through Tricord Global. And so people ask what that is. And so Tricord Global is a nonprofit, a 501c3 nonprofit in the U.S. that we actually have created some, I guess we would call it proprietary information that we've positioned Tricord Global to be able to deploy investment capital overseas. So most of the time in America, what happens is, like, for example, a missionary. And by the way, when I use this illustration, I'm not being critical of missionaries or anything like that. I want to make sure that's clear. We love missionaries. We actively support missions, just so we're clear. But I'm just trying to explain the difference. And what happens overseas is because America and, say, Europe have been rather richer nations compared to many other nations of the world, most of the time people can come to America and raise what we call donation money, and then they can take that money over into developing countries, preach the gospel, and help people. And by the way, that still needs to happen. We still need to donate. They still need to go over and preach the gospel. But what we've done, what David and I have done from the beginning, is we said, Lord, show us a different model in the business side. When Jesus said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in the earth as it is in heaven, I asked the Lord to show me, how do I take what I know about business and use it overseas to really make a difference in people's lives? And so what the Lord showed to us, to you and I, and to David, was there's a way that we're actually allow people to invest here in America, where basically, for example, in the normal investment in Tricord, you would get your money back, plus you would earn a good interest rate on that money, but then we would loan that money overseas. Now, before anybody, gets, when you talk about loaning, what people don't understand here is, honey, over here in Western countries, we pay on that money that they lend us 4 to 8% interest. We pay that. Then we go overseas and then we lend that money at about 12%, and that's an annual percentage rate. Now, before you freak out and fall out on the floor, what you got to understand is that in America, the central lending rate here in America right now is meaning that the Federal Reserve loans to the banks that are here in America, it's basically right at 0%. In fact, I think we will go to negative interest rates. That's a whole nother discussion. But right now, just think about zero. You still go over to those foreign countries, many of those developing countries, their central bank lending rate, not the bank, not the money they're going to lend you, but the money their government lends to their bank is anywhere as high as 16, some countries as high as 24%. So what does that do for the end consumer? That means the end consumer is, if you're the best credit customer they have and you're looking for an asset-backed loan, they're going to charge you approximately 30% annual percentage rate. In some countries, it's even higher. Now, in some countries, it's actually lower, and you go in, you can get a 15, 16% rate, which we think is atrocious here in America. In fact, I took somebody with me overseas. We went the first time, and we met with this very prominent businessman that owned a bunch of coffee shops, right? And they look just like Starbucks. And so we went to have a business meeting. We were in this hotel. And I remember I asked the businessman, by the way, what is Barclays Bank willing to loan you money for? And I remember the businessman said, well, they're at 3%. So my friend who's a Western mind thinker, he poked me and said, see, I told you it's 3% annual. And I said, because I knew he was wrong. So I said to the businessman, well, explain to him what the annual rate would be on that 3% loan. He said, oh, it's 3% per month on the entire principal that you pay, which comes out really, if it compounds, it comes out to over 40-something%. But if you just want to keep the math simple, that's 30% annual rate that he was paying as a prime customer with all these coffee shops around. He was having to pay a lot of money for his money. So the Lord has shown us how we're able to deploy capital. And over here in the Western nations, we'll pay 4 to 8% on the people's money that invest, depending for how long they invest and the amount of money they invest. Now, our minimum cash investment is $20,000. And if you want to invest through an IRA, then your minimum would be $25,000 because the fees and other things are a little bit higher. And so, but then we go overseas and we loan that money at about 12%, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little less, but it comes in at about 12%. And we take the 4%, the difference between what we pay, say between 4% and 12%, or the difference between 8%, which is our highest interest rate. Yes, you can make 8% because we're making 12%. And so we do that to empower people. And David's going to share a lot more about this, but I'm just trying to hit the kind of top level so you understand it. And so, David, we're actually loaning in other countries at about 12%. I think we have some loans that are a little higher than that, some that are a little lower than that, but it comes in at about 12%. And we've been doing this now. We started Tricord Global in 2008, and we've seen some tremendous results, haven't we?
Yeah, and Bill, I think what's important for people to realize, it's almost an inverse relationship. Whenever money gets tight, or here, when the interest rates go down, historically in developing countries, because it sucks all the capital out of the country, those interest rates have a tendency to trend higher. And so what happens is it sucks all the capital out of the available capital out on the higher tier clients, and the macro loans and the micro loans and the other business clients, they can't actually get that money. Even if they have good credit, that money is taken by the major. It's not available. Doesn't matter what the rate is, there's no money available. There's a $2.6 trillion credit deficit in developing countries.
Yeah, say that again.
There's a $2.6 trillion credit deficit in developing countries.
So they don't have access to capital. Like here in America, somebody can go to a Best Buy and buy a flat screen TV on credit, for example. And we know when they walk out, that TV is not worth anything, right? And but over in foreign countries, that 2.6 trillion is even what we would call business credit, there's really no consumer credit overseas like we have in Western nations.
Right. And so the people that we target and the businesses that we target, people need to understand they supply 33% of the GDP in those developing nations and 44% of all the jobs that are available. So just so we're clear, we have a target-rich environment. But what we do is more than just lending money, and the interest basically keeps the business solvent. It's not, everything we do is not run on subsidized funds. And so what happens is if it's not like somebody's given charitably and then all of a sudden they quit giving and so everything folds. The businesses, the banks, the things that we're invested in, they're all sustainable, and they operate independent of any kind of charitable or sustained giving. And so, but that's not just the giving. The whole picture is for that percentage. The reason we have so many clients, I get emails constantly from people all over the world in developing countries every day asking if they have great business ideas. They've got things they want to accomplish, but they can't get money. Countries,
capital.
When they hear about Tricord, they constantly email and say, "Are you operating here in India? Are you operating here?" So there is people. If that wasn't an appealing position, people wouldn't be asking for that type of relationship. But if we can put up that first Tricord slide.
Hey, David, before we do that, I just want to mention to all those that are watching this even later, that the difference between what David is talking about right now is that if let's take me instead of saying a missionary. If I stand up to you and I say, I'm going to take an offering up to go buy some sewing machines in Uganda, I go and I invest that money. I take an offering and I buy some sewing machines. And we actually know.
That's a real example.
Yeah, that's a real example we know about.
We've done that.
Where we came back a year later and all the sewing machines have been sold for parts. And so, but here's what happens. If I come back and if I do an offering, then I got to come back to America the next year and take up that same offering. One of the things that we need to talk about is the sustainability that we talk about, because when we lend $1, when we give $1, we've got to come back to America and raise that dollar again or back to a Western nation. However, and by the way, there's still a great place for our donations and our charity. But when we invest $1, that dollar never comes out of that country. So people say, well, how do you pay the interest if the dollar never comes out? So the dollar comes out, but the dollar's going into that country making 12%. It comes back, but the dollar stays, the interest comes back. We pay the investors here and operate Tricord Global, but that dollar that we put in that country never comes back out of that country. So the first client will borrow the dollar. They pay their normal interest rate that they would pay. Then that interest comes back and we pay our investors. That dollar stays, goes to the next client. The next client does their loan. They pay the interest. That dollar then goes to the third client. And that $1 can stay in that country with infinity. It can stay there forever in that particular country working as we're taking that interest. So I don't have to come back to America and raise donations to go do the same thing. Now, as we're expanding and growing, David, then it gets exciting because we're able to raise more capital, which, by the way, yesterday, Friday, we opened Tricord Global for new investments. We only do it currently 2 times a year. Occasionally, we'll do it 3 times a year, depending on the demand overseas. And the reason we do that, the reason we only open it for a short period of time, is because we have to know how much capital we're going to have committed to deploy it. So we can't commit over there to what we're going to deploy until we know what you're willing to invest over here. So if the money just kept coming in month by month, we wouldn't have a clean strategy to be able to deploy the capital. This way we can make our commitments, right? And then come back to you again later in the year, and we only do it for a short period of time. So I just wanted to insert that, but I want David to show you kind of the impact that Tricord Global actually is having, and he's got some slides to show that to you.
Yeah, if we put that first slide up, this is just kind of an overview look. These are actually some of our clients. But what happens is that we take our money and we invest it. It's not just a matter of investing money and getting money back. And not only does that money work in the system there, and in fact, it won't dissipate 12 to 20 times because of the operations of it. Charitable gift, $1 only lasts one time. And but once people are saved, born again, love God, they still have issues of being able to take care of their homes, their children's education. In fact, sometimes parents have to pray and consider what children are going to get an education, which ones are going to stay and work. So they have all this pressure on them because the money's not available. So what we do is that we invest in Genesis Finance, Glow Trends, the bank that we have over there, also Glory Sacco. We have currently there in Uganda, for example, we have over 4,000 business clients that are taking advantage of the funds and the capital that's sustaining them. So clients are able to educate their children. They're able to get houses. They're able to invest in community development projects, like instead of, drilling wells, they can drill their own wells. Yes. We empower they become the civic leaders. We have, like we talked about, we actually had one client who started out with a $50 loan, for example, and now she has the corner 7-Eleven, and she also lends out money herself. She's become a money lender in her community. Yeah. And she's well diversified. She's also employs, so they do community development. They can drill their own wells. They can do their own adult education, adult literacy. They're able to take their funds. They tithe. They give. They're so thrilled, and missionaries love it because for over 40-something years, I've worked with missionaries the majority of my life, and they all cry out about this stuff because their people are suffering. They can't make money. They can't educate their children. They can't support their churches. Churches can't roof their buildings. So what happens when we take these clients? Not only do we help them start a business, but they get with that loan, they get business education. Mm-hmm. They go through a process where they get business training. They learn how, it might be on a different scale. So whether you're under a tree sitting on a rock or you're in an air-conditioned building classroom, the principles of business are the same. And so they're learning how to make a business model, how to do a business plan, how to negotiate. They learn about banking. They learn about savings. They learn about how to take their profits and grow their business. They learn how to scale businesses. We've had people that start out with small loans that wind up getting loans now. Their capital need is $100,000-$200,000. They've grown. One of our clients there has a gas station, has a wholesale warehouse. He has furniture warehouses. We have one lady
and he started with a bicycle repair shop, repairing, kind of a little small 10 by 10 little place. Remember that he operates. You and I went and looked at it.
And he went to the dump and got all the parts and would literally build a bicycle.
So it's amazing to see. And he's progressed all the way from the little used repair bicycle shop. Then he went to a used furniture shop. Then he went to a new furniture store. Then he grew from the new furniture store. He kept that, still has that business.
And employees.
And employed many employees. And he started they call it Petro over there. We call it a gas station here. He started a petrol station with a full-fledged grocery store. And then the last time David and I were there together, he told us he's going to open a Costco. That was his words. Yeah. I'm going to open a Costco. Now, it's not a real branded Costco. And I asked him, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to sell to other entrepreneurs that are in the country.
That's so exciting.
And he said, because they can't buy their product cheap enough to make as much money as they need to in the markets. And so, listen, let me tell you, this is one of the only investments I know anywhere that has the impact that it does, literally to change people's lives. So what we're doing is we're taking the business principles that we've learned and we teach through Wealth Builders, and we're applying it to developing countries. And so, David, for a second here, I want to talk about real specifically how Tricord works. And Karen has given me a list of questions. And so there's 3 or 4 of them here in the beginning. I'll answer. What is Tricord Global? Remember, it's a 501c3. But we're able to, David and I spent 2 years actually getting approval from the IRS, 2.5 to be exact, to get approval from the IRS to be able to do this kind of lending. And the way it works is we pay 4 to 8% on the money that's invested. The terms are 5 to 7 years. So you can invest, the minimum investment you can do is $20,000. That would, we call a cash investment, or $25,000 as an IRA investment. And you would need to invest that for a minimum of 5 years to a maximum of 7 years. So that's the terms that work on how we do that. And of course, the mission David has shown you is we lend the money overseas to have the impact, because remember, capital is not available in many of these developing countries. And so that's really the mission. Mm-hmm. And then how's the money used? It's used as loans to be able to impact people's lives. Now, there's a question that I want to deal with, David, that is, how safe is it? In just a minute, David's going to talk about charitable gift annuities. Right now, everything that we've talked about is basically you invest. For those of you that would be interested in this side of it, we actually have an offering circular that we send to you, and then we have an investment agreement that comes in that packet as well. And we have some questions that we need to ask so that you're clear on exactly how this works. And so so people ask, well, how safe is it? And listen, anytime you're investing in third world countries, it's not always the safest investment if you're comparing that to money markets here in America. So if you're comparing it to money markets, or if you're comparing it to a CD in a bank, I mean, you go to a bank today and ask how much is a 1-year CD, then ask how much is a 5-year CD, then ask how much is a 10-year CD, right? So you're still below 2%, below 1%. So it's called risk reward. We pay you the amount of interest rate that the risk bears. So that's what we're doing. The reason you're making 4 to 8, people always ask, how can you pay that? Because we're lending it at 12%. That's how that works. Now, I want to talk about the risk for a second. We have never missed an interest payment to anyone who's invested in our promissory notes, which is what you receive as an investor. There's 3 things you get. You get the offering circular that explains the investment. Then you receive that offering circular is 8 pages long. And you can see on there, it says offering circular, Tricord Global Mission Society, Inc., offering of unsecured promissory notes under the Tricord Global Loan Program. So that would be, that explains the investment. Then the next one, which is our investment agreement, wherever that is not that one, Derek, but actually leave that one there. I like that one. That's got the table, and you can see the amounts on the left that you can invest. So I'm going to have to lean up, and I apologize because I can't see it. But if you can see, the amount is $20,000 to $49,999. You see 5 years, it'll be at 5%. 6 years, 5 years at 4% for that amount. 6 years is 5%, and 7 years is 6%. And so that's just something that I want you to see so you can understand how it works. Then the investment agreement, Derek, if you can put that up. A lot of people want to know how it works. So the app, that you just had it. Says application, the first word. There you go. Application and investment agreement. That is a 10-page document that you would fill out. So you can see this is a serious thing to do. You're not just kind of sending your money away. You'll get these documents first and have anyone you need to review those for you. And then the last thing you would get that we don't have to put up, but is an actual promissory note. If you were to invest, you would receive the promissory note. It spells out, when you receive your money, how your money comes back to you. And so that promissory note spells all of that out. And then I'm going to go back to David, but I want to say this, is that you can use your retirement accounts. If it's a 401k and your money is still in a 401k and you have worked for the employer where your 401k is, 403B, 457A, if you've worked for that employer and you've been away from that employer for more than 6 months, then you can roll that money over into what we call a self-directed IRA, and you're able to invest that way. So I just want to make sure that's clear. If you're currently with your employer and you have a 401k, you cannot roll that money over and invest. It's got to stay in that custodian. Now, I'm not suggesting you do this, but some people have actually borrowed against their 401ks at about 2%, and then they have invested at, let's say, for example, 8%. So for them, they're making a 6% spread. So if you're disciplined financially and that makes sense to you, then you can take a portion of your 401k and do that. But David, I was wanting you, if you would, you can go ahead and comment on that as well. But also, let's go ahead and go to the charitable gift annuities.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that with the charitable gift annuity, where that plays into, and also the global note, Tricord Global note, is especially in uncertain times. As you get older, we talk about the time horizon or money investment horizon, time value of money. There's three things. Derek, if you put that second slide up. There's three things that affect our investments in general. That's time, inflation, and taxes. Those are the three things that minimize or grow our investments. So regardless of the business cycle, whether an expansion or a decline, we're at a peak or a trough, you know, the time horizon or the investment horizon, when we're younger, we have more time. The time value of money, money's more, the current money now will never be more valuable than it is right now. So over time, we have to either grow it, you know, to determine what we want to do. As we get older, say 50, 55, 60 and older, then we're not so much in the growth mode. We're in the income and income preservation mode. We talk about retirement. This is where charitable gift annuities make sense. The thing about the charitable gift annuity is, Derek, if you could go up to that next slide, is that the charitable gift annuity is an investment, but it's a gift. And the way it's constructed is if the person who wants to get an annuity, a charitable gift annuity, first of all, the barrier of entry is lower. You know, you can get in for around $10,000. You don't have to wait necessarily for different investment times. You can actually get an annuity done, charitable gift annuity done anytime you decide you want to do that. So the charitable gift annuity, first of all, the donor or the giver signs an annuity agreement, which is an investment agreement, and makes a lump sum donation and takes a partial tax deduction, if you can follow that graph. So they give money to Tricord Global in an annuity. It is an investment, and then they get a tax deduction. And then Tricord invests those funds. Now that goes into our social impact investing that we talked about before. It all falls in line with any type of social or kingdom impact investing that we do. Affects clients. So it does this. It does the same work that the global note does, as far as what Tricord does with it. And then the donor receives payments on a fixed schedule for the term of their life. And in the annuity agreement, and then Tricord, whenever their life is ended, whatever the balance is goes to Tricord, so it becomes a legacy gift, and Tricord continues to use that money for the objectives and purpose of Tricord. So let me explain just a little bit more how that works. I just thought that graph would kind of shows people how that works. Let's go to the next slide, and basically it's the same type of slide. But you get an income tax deduction, reduced tax on capital gains, and fixed payments. And so let's go to the next slide, and we'll talk about how important this is. I want to get to some of the meat of it. Is that what are the benefits of a charitable gift annuity? First of all, as you get older, you know, we have the RMDs, which are mandatory. You have to withdrawals, and you have to pay taxes on those. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is even though now they've moved them 2 years in advance. And you're 74, 73, 74, you have to take that RMD. If you don't take it, you get penalized heavily. But if you put your money in a charitable gift annuity, all the RMDs go away. You don't have to pay any RMDs.
Now, David, so explain what an RMD is.
That's a mandatory deposit that they have to take at age 70. It used to be 72. It's 74 now, I believe. And it's a certain amount of money that they have to take out of their IRA or their retirement accounts that have been tax deferred. And they have to take that. They're mandated to take that, and then they have to pay the taxes on that.
Yeah, so David, let's be clear. So if you're at a certain age, which was 70 and a half, because of the COVID, it's been extended to later now, I think 72.
72.
The government did that so that when you and I put our money into IRAs, to retirement accounts, we don't pay taxes on the money that we put in the retirement account right now. But the problem with that, and I'll say to all young people listening, everyone should do, if you're younger, you should do a Roth IRA. Don't do a regular IRA. Do a Roth IRA, because here's why. You put it in a retirement account, you get the tax deduction the year you put it in, but then all of the gains that are in that account, say over 30 years, watch this now, and all the money you put in it. So the money you deposited plus the gains, meaning how much money it made, when you start pulling it out at age was 70 and a half, you had to pay earned income taxes on that money because you never paid it back here. Now you also have to pay it on the earnings.
Now you're paying more taxes
now
than
you're
when
paying,
you are working.
And then some people retire, they pay more taxes. So for the regular person, they don't have mortgage insurance anymore. They don't have mortgage interest anymore because they have paid their house off. And I have people all the time at the workshops and seminars we do that'll come up to me and say, "Man, Billy, I wish somebody would have told me this before now." So you're getting an advantage. And by the way, you can invest through your IRAs or from your IRAs. But I want to encourage you to listen to what David's saying on the charitable gift annuities to make sure you understand what we're talking about, because we have some people that it actually would serve them better. A Tricord note lasts 5 to 7 years, but you'll have to renew it. That charitable gift annuity at the interest rate, David, let's talk about what somebody that say 67, what they would get as a deduction. Do you have that on these slides?
If we'll go back to the slide number 5, Derek, that we were talking about. Here's an assumption. Let's say that a person is 65 years old and they invest $100,000 in a charitable gift annuity. Their immediate income tax deduction would be in the current schedule would be $30,960. That means that they would get annual payments. Their annual payment off of that would be $4,700 for life of the annuitant, with a tax-free for the first 19.9 years. That simply means not only do they get the original tax deduction, but they also get their payout, and the tax-free portion of that $4,700 is $3,469 for the next 20 years.
So they wouldn't pay any taxes. They get a $31,000 deduction against their income the year they put the money in, but then basically it's tax-free. Approximately $3,500 a month that they receive that they don't have to pay any tax.
It rolls forward, and the note we want to put on that charitable income tax deduction, usually it's anywhere from 30 to 60% of the AGI, their adjusted gross income. But this year in 2020, it's 100% deduction against their AGI. So that factors in.
Yeah.
If they do it this year, it factors in. The RMDs go away. You don't have any mandatory withdrawals. So actually, there would only be paying taxes on ordinary income annually of about $1,231 of income. So they'd only be paying taxes on that. So what a charitable gift annuity does, it really minimizes the tax that not only are they benefiting Tricord, not only are they supporting the mission, and giving a legacy gift, they get it. They're hedging against inflation, and they're not paying taxes. Then here's something that I want them to see. If they did a 4.7% annuity, Bill, what takes place is that they're going to get their annual payout. They're going to get income. They're going to get a tax-free portion. So the rate of return is 5.3%. And actually, if you take the equivalent return adjusted for the tax deduction, is actually about 8%. So they're going to make, not only do their R&Ds go away, not only do they have fixed income for life, not only are they giving to the social impact, they're preserving their capital against taxes. They don't have a longer time horizon. So either with the Tricord Global Note or the Charitable Gift Annuity, they are getting income. Even on the Global Note, if you're older, you're more income minded than growth minded at that stage of life. And so income matters. It's not, you want to grow it, but you don't want to, like you've always said, the best way to make money is not lose money.
Right.
And so actually they're going to make, on a 4.7% annuity, they're going to make an equivalent of about 8% on their money. They're going to have income. And so, if they have a large amount of money or land, or they want to set up a unit trust, there's a lot of different ways they can set up that charitable gift annuity. And to where it makes sense, it preserves capital, provides income, and it also is a hedge against taxes because the gift side of the annuity is tax free.
Okay, thank you, David. Let's do some questions. Looks like we've got, based on what I'm seeing, it looks like we've got
Can I
several.
ask one question? If someone is interested in the charitable gift annuities, is there some place where they contact our office?
Yeah, they just you call our office, or you can email, and just go to wealthbuilders.org, and all you have to do is send an email off of there. It says contact us, and you can go in there, send the email, and say you're interested in the charitable gift annuity. So that
and Bill, what's good about that too is that we have the same formatted information on the charitable gift annuity that they have on the Global Note. We have an application, we have an offering circular, and then we'll also have, now it's individualized depending on people's age and everything, so they would have anywhere from a 10 to 27 page proposal that's very thorough, that their bookkeepers, their accountants can go through. The example shows the letter, it shows the assumptions, it shows the proposal, and also shows how the agreement is set up.
Good. Okay, Karen, I know, listen, we know this is a lot of interest rates and technical information, so we apologize about that, but we're wanting to get that to you clearly. Right now, I want to make sure we clear something up here, is that as the law currently sits, you're able to invest with your IRA into a Tricord promissory note. You cannot invest with your IRA in the charitable gift annuities at this juncture. And so your charitable gift annuity would be monies that you would have that are not held in an IRA. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that as we're talking about this. But let's go to the questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our first question, and this is back to the Tricord investment that we started talking about first today. And it's from Gwen Watkins, and she says, "Good morning. I'm Gwen from Florida. I was informed by someone that you do not accept investors from the state of Florida. Can you explain why that is? Thank you."
Yeah, that's a great question, Gwen. The offering circular that we send out is based on the Philanthropy Protection Act that was actually done under President Bill Clinton. And there were 10 states that optioned out of that, and Florida was one of those. Now we can accept money in some of those 10 states, but the difficulty that we have, and I'm just being really honest with you, is how much it cost us to really register and set up in those states kind of in a different way. So that's the reason in those 10 states we actually offer the charitable gift annuities. And so basically those 10 states are listed, just so we're clear, in the offering circular. And so we will tell you, and Gwen, if you'd like to see the offering circular where we explain that in the circular, I can have our office send that to you. But that's the reason why, because we do this under what's called the Philanthropy Protection Act. And that's the reason. So there's 10 states out there, but
that opted out.
That opted out of that act applying to that state. They said we still want all the same things. And so we function under that Philanthropy Protection Act.
Awesome. Okay, great. And this question's coming in from chat. Again, back to the Tricord investment. If I go to heaven during the committed term of the Tricord investment, can my children get the money out?
Yes. Well, the way it works is your money is in for the term you agreed to invest. So that note basically lasts for the term. However, when you fill out the application and investment agreement, you will list your beneficiaries in that investment agreement. So your children, and I want this clear, your children would inherit the note. So however you have broken down the note, so that note includes the principal and interest that it would earn. Now, for example, we had a smaller note come due last year, and there was 3 children. One child wanted their distribution. The other 2 did not. They wanted to keep the note. In that particular case, we honored it. And so the one child that took their distribution, the sad thing was they had to pay because they invested through an IRA. The sad part was they had to pay a 20% penalty. We don't charge that. We don't get that on that part. The IRS gets that, and the IRA custodian holds it. Plus, they had to pay taxes. And so by the time they got their portion,
very small amount they got.
It was not quite cut in half, but almost cut in half. So that's kind of sad that happens. But the beneficiaries are listed. So you list them in the investment agreement, and we have those.
Bill, let me just say with that too, that on the charitable gift annuity side of it, you can do the beneficiary thing, the unit trust, but also charitable gift annuities can also help and benefit estate taxes and capital gains tax.
So what I would say to all of you listening, so this is not confusing, because I know, because you start talking about financial stuff. So what happens is most of you that have cash to invest, meaning most of you that say are under 65, you have cash to invest, the Tricord promissory note would be the better way to go. Honestly, if you're between 60 and 65, you should call our office, and David or I can talk to you and explain that to you, what your options would be. In fact, if somebody calls us for 65, unless they have a very large portfolio, I strongly advise them to take the quarterly payment. So one of the things, Karen, that we haven't said today is that when someone invests with us, they can choose to receive quarterly payments. So for example, if you invested $100,000 at 8%, we pay 8% simple interest. If you invested $100,000 for 7 years, we pay the 8% is simple interest. So that means every quarter you would get 2%, a 2% payment. That would be $2,000. Mm-hmm. Then the next quarter you would get $2,000. Then the next quarter you would get $2,000. Then the next quarter you get, so at the end of the year, 12 months, you actually would have $8,000. But if you receive it quarterly, you're getting it every quarter at $2,000. Now, just simple interest. Now, if many who invest their money through IRAs in Tricord, they actually choose most of the time to compound that interest. So you get a table, and we also send out a receipt at the end of every year that shows how much money you're getting, right? So you'd say, okay, my note grew from 100,000 to 108,000. Then the next year you get to compound the 108,000, not just the 100,000, but the 108,000. So many people who put their money through IRAs choose to do that. So for a young person, meaning younger than 65, younger than 60, sometimes that note makes a lot of sense to them. And then when they're 70 and a half, some of them are transferred over to the charitable gift annuity, because then that works better for them. So that's just something to understand, and I hope that helps. Okay,
That's
Karen?
great. Thank you so much. This question's coming in from chat, and they want to know what type of follow-up training that you provide for the people that borrow money from Tricord to start the businesses.
I'll have David answer that.
They have ongoing business training through their loan cycle. So what happens, they have what they call pre-loan training to make sure they're economically active, and they go through all the training to start their business. So let's say their loan cycle is a year. They will, the loan officers and the trainers in like GlowTrans or Glory Sacco or Genesis, they are that loan officer and those trainers. They meet, whether it's in the rural areas in a co-op style meeting, or individually. They go through follow-up meeting, they follow up on their jobs, they problem solve, and they have ongoing consulting and training through the whole cycle of the 12 months, but it's hands-on. So through each cycle of loan, they are getting constant consulting, constant training, and when they meet in their groups, they also do problem solving. So if there is a problem, the clients get together in the co-op and the loan officer and the trainer, and they will discuss how to mitigate those issues. So it's not just pre-loan training, one-time training. They get, as long as they're in that loan cycle up till they graduate to the microfinance lending, they get embedded, built-in business training and on-site inspection for the full courses of their loans.
And we also preach the gospel.
We do. And I know it's one thing is too, is that we even go down to, because sometimes, David, like in the bush, they don't know how to read and write. So we start off by teaching them how to sign their name, and a very minimal part of, how to read a contract, just a very elementary, but they're getting even the most basic of training.
And budgeting and
all of that.
But David in Malawi, tell about how many of the conversions we had there in Malawi.
Well, in one cycle of loans, we had 12 Muslim ladies come to Christ, 12 clients through the business training. Mm-hmm. They actually met in the co-op meetings, and they came to faith in Christ and started appointed and attended the church. Also with the literacy programs, we have those community development programs that Becky was talking about, where the businesses funded the adult literacy programs, and while the clients were making money, they were learning to read, write, and count money. The minute they learned to read, write, and count money, they were able to get into the full loan programs, because now they're able to understand contracts and all that. It goes so much deeper, and we don't have time to go into that, but it also gives them identity. It gives them census identity. So when they graduate from that third tier loan, even if they didn't want to come back to Tricord or Genesis, they could go to any bank in the country. They have their ID. They have a credit history. They have everything they need in their business, where they could go to Barclay Bank, or they could go to, so they could outgrow, if they wanted to, the access of capital they have to us if they scale their business. So it's an ongoing business training. They have ongoing discipleship. We had one client who business nearly went under through the business ethics training. They talked about anger and temper, and her business was salvaged because she said, when I got delivered from my anger problem, my business increased and I quit running away clients. So that's just a few things that happens whenever you talk about the Kaizen, because the business ethics training is actually discipleship training as it relates to business.
Amen. That's
Good.
exciting.
That's really exciting.
That is awesome. So we've got two questions that are similar. It's coming in from Prakash. I hope I said that okay. Prakash Simons, and then Laurent Brenez. And Prakash says, I live in India. Can I invest in Tricord as someone who lives outside of the U.S.? And Laurent is asking about investing from abroad as well.
Yeah, so there's two things you have to know there. The first is we have to look at the particular laws in that nation. But The answer, first of all, because we do have foreign investors that invest with Tricord. So the answer is yes. But here's what you have to know is that we don't play the currency game. And what that means is you have to convert your currency and invest in dollars. And when we pay you back, then we pay in dollars. So the Canadian dollar several years ago was very favorable compared to the US dollar as far as the currency exchange. So we had some investors that invested from Canada who today it's not quite as favorable, but who invested from Canada. We were paying our normal interest rates that they would invest with in terms, and they were making like 12 and 14% back then because of the way the currency converted. However, the currency can go the other way as well. Now we had really a relatively young man invest $100,000 from Asia, and based on how he was doing his things and how he was converting, it worked out really favorable for him. But we do not take currency. We only take U.S. dollars. So you'd have to convert, invest. You would earn in U.S. dollars, and then we pay in U.S. dollars.
Wonderful. Okay, this came in from David Lee, who we know.
Hey, David.
And he says, in the past, it's been fun partnering with Tricord on projects like the heavy-duty piece of farming equipment that impacted a local village. One, will there be more opportunities like this? And number two, is it more effective to invest in specific projects or the overall Tricord investments?
Well, the overall Tricord investment impacts directly a lot more people. So we have thousands of clients, not just currently, but past. And so the actual investment piece, but we were going to do another specific, and these are donation projects, right, just so we're clear, that David Lee, because we bought the tractor and the trailer for Farm Uganda. And so we purchased that. We've also done several other projects, like, for example, last year, we raised money for the $25,000 Project Cure container that we sent to Senegal and to, I want to say, Nigeria.
It was medical equipment.
Yeah, medical
so they were
equipment
starting new clinics
that we did. But the investment dollars, number one, and we still would take donations, but the investment dollars really impact more people in a broad basis when you invest than you would just in our one-time projects. However, we will be presenting as soon as this COVID thing is past us. We will be presenting some other donation projects for Tricord that you can get involved in. And someone that doesn't have the $20,000 to $25,000 minimum investment, it's a perfect way for them to get involved and still have an impact.
That's
Bill,
great.
let me just add to that for just one example. If they give them the investment money, we have through Genesis, we have one school that has a dorm school that has 800 students that those students all get daily meals every day and an education. So 800 students benefit off of that capital that's put into Genesis. So you're not only just adopting one student, you're actually helping feed 800 students every day.
Every day.
So there's a scalable issue there. Doesn't minimize the projects. They're vitally important. But the scalability of the investment touches so many more. I just wanted to give that as one example. Even through Farm Uganda, they have part of the investment side. They actually employ 30-something people on the investment side besides the donation side. So I think they're both vitally important.
And I think with donations, we're talking thousands of dollars. With investment, meaning impact. Mm-hmm. When we're talking investments, we're talking millions and tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. I think people always, according to what they can give or invest, a lot of people don't have the dollars to invest, but they vitally want to give. And so we do come up with some opportunities for people that have less than the amounts to invest that they would like to give and be a part.
Absolutely. And I think that what you have to understand is either way, which is vitally important, has the same social impact on the individuals that are the end users or the receivers, whether it's the donation or the lending. It's just the scalability of what your money does.
Mm-hmm. That's great. This question is coming in specifically on the charitable gift annuity. And the question is, can I take money out of the charitable gift annuity if I need it?
The short answer is that is an irrevocable gift because of the tax donation. There is a way that you could terminate a charitable gift annuity, but the penalty would be a very heavy. That would be something that would be an individual discussion based on the individual's needs. But no, that is a donation side of it, and the annuity is a fixed annuity with fixed payments.
Great. And this is a question that we hear a lot. You know, when people give to the charitable gift annuity or to Tricord, they're always wanting to make sure that it fits with their plan to have their children inherit money. And I'm wondering, Billy and Dave, if you could just touch on the different ways that people can set up ownerships or even the best ways to have children directly as a beneficiary on investments that does not incur the substantial taxes like what you described with that Tricord investment. There's ways that people can set up ownerships to avoid the heavy tax burden on their children. Can you just touch on that a moment with these investments?
Yeah, so go ahead, Dave.
With the gift annuity side, it would be a conversation that we'd be glad to go over with it, but you can assign beneficiaries. There can be a second annuitant, which is your children, or you can set up trust, a unit trust. There's different ways that you can set up to avoid taxes and pass on benefit to the children. So the answer is yes, there's ways to do that, but it would take a consult individually to find out the specifics of what they're trying to accomplish, whether it's cash, property, or some other type of investment.
And so if they invest through an IRA into a note, they will, on that IRA application, they will list their beneficiaries. And so that what the beneficiaries would receive from Tricord Global, they would receive that note. And then what would govern when they received their money is what the terms of the note were. So let's say the note came due in 2023. Let's say someone invested back in 2016. They had a 7-year note, and they were to, let's say they were to pass away in 2021, for example, but the note wasn't due until 2023. What would happen is their beneficiaries, as they had them listed in proportion, would receive that proportion of the note accordingly at the time it matured. Now they could receive to get both the principal and the interest if it was, for example, a compound note. If it was an interest paying note, then the interest can pay out to the beneficiaries according to the terms of the note. So, for example, going back to the $100,000 note, somebody receiving $2,000 a quarter, and they had 2 children were beneficiaries, and they showed us the will and the how the IRA was to be inherited. It's called basically an inherited in an IRA situation. They basically would split, for example, the IRA. But whereas if it was a regular note, they could split that $2,000 a month. And $2,000 a quarter, one would get $1,000, the other would get $1,000. If it was compound note, they would have to wait until the note compounded at its full term, and then however they were allowed on the beneficiary, that's what they would end up receiving. And then depending on their circumstances, tax circumstances, they would have to pay the taxes accordingly.
Bill, they need to consult their accountants or certified planners, because a couple of the laws have changed on the time on inherited IRAs that they don't draw it out for life. It might be 10 years specific. So there's some of those things that have been tweaked recently. So they probably need to talk to their certified planner or their accountant to understand those. I
actually think, you and I agree with David, you need to talk to your financial planner or accountant about this. But I know that typically when someone inherits an IRA, now you have 3 choices of how you can do that. And so we follow the governance of what that is. And we have an IRA custodian that we use that handles all of the particular legal items for people investing with an IRA.
Very good. And this is our last question that's come in on the Tricord and Charitable Gift Annuities. And we did answer this, but there's some people that come in and out, or maybe just joined a little bit late. Mary Kangi has the question, what is the loan repayment rate of those that you lend to?
So they pay us, the bank that we loan to the bank, and then the bank loans to the clients. So the bank will pay us 12%. The interest rate that is given to the clients would depend on the environment and what's there. But I do want to be clear, it's a lot more than what you see in the U.S. But you have to understand that in developing countries, the need for capital is so high, and the way they pay back is in some cases is on a daily or a weekly basis. Now, the larger the loans, they pay back, for example, on a monthly basis. But the way money turns over there, they're able to meet whatever that interest rate is. So just to be clear for her, we receive 12%. We pay over here 4 to 8%. So there's a 4% spread against the highest interest rate that we pay. What do we do with that 4%? We use that 4% to operate Tricord. That's what we do. That's what we call sustainability. What happens to many type things you hear about is that they haven't included the concept of sustainability. And one of the things that the Lord gave to David and I was, how do you do this and keep this perpetually going on and on and on and still be able to pay your investors? And that is how we have done that now since 2010.
And the gift annuity is pretty straight up. It's the new tables come out from the IRS in July. I just want to make that statement. But as of right now, if they did a 4.7% annuity, once it's fixed, they get fixed payments either quarterly or annually. And those are the rate of return right now, and that is individual depending on their age and their time horizon. But for a 65-year-old person right now, if they gave $100,000 for an example, and a 4.7% annuity, it would be a fixed payment for life, and the rate of return would be 5.3%. The adjusted rate is about 8%. So it's a fixed rate return. It's a fixed payment. So it functions a little different.
Great. I think something that's really striking me as we're visiting is that the interest rate is part of it. It's much more favorable than what they can get in their country, going traditional ways. But also the training that Tricord provides is really showing commitment to their success. And so I think there's so much value in that. And I really didn't know the depth of training that you all did, and it is amazing. You're really setting people up for success that borrow from the bank that's connected with Tricord.
Yeah, it's really strong. And I would say you got to remember, money lenders in many of these impoverished countries, money lenders are charging, what we would see here in America, 200 to 300% annual percentage rate. I mean, it's horrendous. And so a 5% weekly rate is not unheard of, and certainly a 10% monthly rate is not unheard of. So when you look at that, if it's smaller amounts, they charge that. If real small amounts, they can charge as high as a 5% daily rate. And then on what we would call normal amounts, a money lender could charge 10% monthly, not annual, monthly rate, which gets up to about 120, 130%. So that's the reason we're in there offering people really low interest rates. It's a ministry and it's a calling because we're able to bless people with what I call cheap capital. In other words, they're able to borrow at such a lower rate compared to what they normally could.
Wonderful. I want to remind everybody, first of all, people have just stayed on to listen to this today. And so we want to thank you so much for joining us and staying with it. This has just been a really wonderful program, Billy and Becky and David. Thank you. I want to remind everybody that we do Facebook Live at 1 o'clock on Wednesdays. And we've gotten some general investment questions in today, Billy and Becky. And so if it's okay, we'll encourage people that will answer those on Wednesday. Just go to Billy's public Facebook page. And a reminder that next weekend is a real estate mastery workshop. You can join us for that workshop from anywhere in the world. We're working on the schedule and just finalizing that. And I just want to tell everybody it is power-packed, full of information and lots of Billy teaching, which everybody is very excited about, Billy. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to you and Becky to close.
All right. Well, honey, we've been excited about today.
We have. I'm excited.
Amen. So today we want to pray for you before we go and speak the blessing of God. David, we appreciate you being on Wealth Builders Live today with us to explain. And we realize some of this is technical, but there's no way to do it but do it. So we did it. And we thank our team, our office team. We have 4 or 5 that are helping us, plus Derek in the background. So we appreciate all that help. Let us pray for you today. So, Father, we come before you this morning in Jesus' name, and we speak the blessing of God. We speak your blessing over people. We say today they're surrounded with favor as a shield. We say today that the angel of the Lord goes before them and prospers them in their way. And so, Father, we speak increase and blessing today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you, and we'll see you right back here again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.